Perfect. Well, Dustin, thanks for taking the time to be on the show. Finally, it's only
thanks for having me.
But finally got it fucking running here. So I want to start at the beginning. Where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
So I was actually born in Fairbanks, Alaska. Lived there till I was 4, and then we moved out to Michigan. And then at 12, I moved to Idaho, where I say I grew up in Idaho because I figure my teen years is where I really grow up. Everything else is just following orders and listening to my parents. And then in 2005, I picked up and moved to Wisconsin. And then I've just slowly been migrating back west since then.
Why'd you stop in Minnesota? It's like the worst state in the union.
I know, right? It's where my wife is from and grew up. So
what was life like for you? You're moving around, from all over the place, really. You've lived damn near half the world at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. My dad believed in moving where work was. Like, if you could find a better opportunity somewhere, don't sit and stay. So we moved a lot because of that. But honestly, I grew up Mormon. So my life was a little different. My mom did what?
Did you go do a ministry or whatever they call that?
A mission? No, I was not a good Mormon kid at all.
Mormon.
I was. But my mom was really strict in that. So our lives were pretty strict. Like, I had my first kiss when I was young, but like, I didn't really date or anything. I followed all the rules. I went to the church dances and all that kind of stuff. I was good in that sense, but I always rebelled against it. Put on Adderall at a young age, so that was good. Been drugged my whole life,
Was that a private school then, or were you going to the public schools?
No, I went to the public schools, which I think had a huge influence on my behaviors, to the point where once I reached high school, my mom decided she wanted to try homeschooling me. And that did not go well. It turned out.
They usually go the other way. Like, they homeschool you when you're younger, and in high school they're like, all right, have at it. Not the other way around.
It turned into me just teaching myself everything, because she went to this thing that was called American Homeschool, and they'd send books and I'd have to go through them, and then I'd send in the test and the results and all that. And it was a good program, but she didn't know what to do to teach me any of that stuff. So
yeah. How was it all through high school, or did eventually your mom throw in the towel and go, this kid's impossible?
So I did that until I was 15, and then I just started working full time. I did construction and traveled around a lot with that. One of my friends from the church owned his construction company and needed some help, so he took me on. And then I just ended up getting my GED.
Sure. In
order to get into the Army. So
when did you start thinking you wanted to go into the Army?
Like 2 days before I joined. in
real long
2006. Yeah, absolutely. It was a long thought out process. Actually, it was very spur of the moment.
So why the Army? Why not, something like I've heard the praises of the Air Force on the last episode. And
looking back, I'd probably go Air Force something else. To be honest with you, it was the closest thing that was available. I Googled it, and there was a recruiter right down the road. So I went and talked to him.
And this was, you said 2006, sorry?
Yep, 2006.
So, how did your family react when you came home and said, hey, by the way, I'm in the Army now?
So I was actually kicked out of the house by then. So it was kind of I didn't care what they thought here or there. I'm the first one to ever join the military in my immediate family. I've got like my cousins did and stuff like that, but we weren't really close to them. So they were kind of whatever. It didn't really mean much to them. They didn't really understand it.
And, so, what's going through your mind? 2-day decision, and boom, here it is.
So it was one of those things. I was 20 when I joined, so I'd been out drinking and stuff like that. And you always talk to people, and everybody talks about being in fights and fighting and how they know exactly what they're going to do. Like, I know if somebody were to come in and try to kill me or do this to my family, I know without a doubt that I would do this to them. And it got me thinking that night, obviously drunk. It got me thinking that how do you really know? How do you know if someone's going to kill you? If you think someone's going to kill you, that you could try to kill them yourself first and stuff like that. And that's when it just went into a downward spiral from there. And next thing I know, I was in the Army.
So
I wanted to know.
Did you ship out right away for boot camp, or What's the timeline?
So this was back, I think I started looking at like in June, and then I failed my first drug test with them. Cannabis, of course, everybody does it, but on record, no. But and then I still hadn't had my GED by then, so I actually went and used them to get my GED and all that kind of stuff. And then I think I shipped out in February of 2007. So it was pretty quick. For
getting your GED, there's I imagine the recruiter has the pipeline set up for that, so it was pretty smooth transition for you. Or I mean, what was that like? If there's somebody listening, that maybe they don't have their GED yet, but they want to join the military.
Yep. I literally just went in there, and yeah, they called. I think it was Wisconsin Indian Head Technical College in Rice Lake. I think is where I got it. She basically just said, meet me at the armory at this time and day, and we're going to go take it. So that's what I did. I didn't really study or anything for it. I didn't think it was too hard. But it was, as long as you got, like I said, I more or less quit school after sophomore year. Mm-hmm. And you're 16 at that time. So fast forward another 4 years without doing any real school. It wasn't, too bad. So
when you left for February for boot camp, basic.
Yep. Yep. Basic training. Yep.
I'm going to get this straight one day. I swear.
Doubt it.
Hey, so that'd be Fort Benning for.
Yep. I went to Benning's School for Boys.
11 Bravo. 11 Bravo was your MOS.
Good.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Hey,
wouldn't have it any other way.
I mean, you moved all over the country, so I mean, was it a tough transition, or was it just another day in the life for you going down to Georgia?
It was a culture shock for sure. Growing up Mormon, violence isn't really preached. I had never been in a fist fight my entire life, even up until after basic. I hadn't been in a fist fight, but I'd always broken up fights, but never like violent in nature at all. And then this all happened, and it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I like this. And then I enjoyed every minute of it, to be honest with you.
I mean, were you still acting up while you're down there? I mean, did your drill instructors have to, I want to say NCO justice, but
I fell asleep once on fire watch. Woke everybody up. I had to sit there and watch everybody else get smoked. But that was like the third time that night someone did it, so it wasn't anything new. No, I wasn't. I kept to myself unless I was sure that I knew something or I could do something, and then I spoke out. So I was kind of that middle, like the top of the middle when it comes to, doing things. Like if I was confident I could do it, I wasn't afraid to put myself out there. So they didn't really have to get on me too much.
And for you, I mean, what's the after boot camp? It's AIT is there?
Yep. I did just straight through.
Since all you guys were 11 Bravo, is there individual AITs that you can choose from, or is it just 11 Bravo does A?
Yes. Well, there's two types you can go. You can go split ops, which is you go to basic, you're like between your junior and senior year, usually, and then you go to AIT after your senior year. Or what I did was OSET, one station unit training or whatever it is. Yeah, where I did everything at once. So I did basic training, got a 2-day pass, and then went straight into AIT.
And so what were you doing? What was AIT like then for you? Walk me through.
That was just more specialized towards the infantry.
Sure.
We got yelled a lot more, stuff in the dirt more. We started to learn like urban ops, like basic urban ops.
Hey, look, there's a swamp. Let's go sleep in it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Don't fuck with the tortoises, though.
Oh God! Right?
What?
Learn that the hard way. That there's a tortoise in Benning that if you fuck with it, it's like a $50,000 or $100,000 fine. And we had like ridiculous. 5 dudes following around, and the drill sergeant's like, "Don't fuck with that thing. It's worth more than you are." And yeah, got smoked for that one.
That's how it was. Where the fire ants.
And that goddamn woodpecker too.
Goddamn woodpecker, yeah. They're like the freaking stupid whippoorwills down at Fort McCoy there, man. I don't know if you guys.
Oh Jesus!
At freaking Fort McCoy. So you go to bed at like 2:00 in the morning, you know, you go, oh great, I'll get 2 hours of sleep. Nope. That's like right when the whippoorwills are going, those guys just went to sleep, let's fuck with them. Yeah.
Yep.
So after AIT, where'd you go from there?
I went back to Green Bay. I was living in Green Bay, or just moved back to Green Bay with some friends, to a girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. And then just worked for a while until I reported to my unit, which was in Abbotsford, Wisconsin. I was in the recon platoon for the first 4 years of my career. My parents came down to see my graduation and drive me back, which was kind of cool, but they still, again, didn't really understand what was going on.
So you started out.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I started out in the Scouts for 4 years. I was, for 2 years, 3 years, I fought for sniper school, but they just weren't sending anybody before the deployment. And then right after the deployment, they still weren't sending people. So, I mean, I was slotted and everything for the spot there, and a promotion came up, so I left. But
was there a reason for did they have an excess of candidates, or was it a funding issue with sniper school?
They're going to say it was a funding issue. They're going to say it was everything in their things. I just don't think they were really sending people, is what it was. Yeah, it was different. It was weird because they had a lot of good candidates, a lot of good guys that were ready to go. And then it's like, as soon as I left, they started sending people left and right. I was like,
they prioritize certain units too. I'm assuming you were guard.
Yep.
You were in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yep.
I was in a mechanized unit. I was the only light brigade in a mechanized unit down in Bliss, and they wouldn't send us to shit. Ranger school, airborne, sniper, none of that. They always prioritize 101 and 82nd before everyone else, and 173rd. Yeah.
First ID gets a lot of the first infantry division. The first ID. What's the unit out in Hawaii? They'll get priority.
25th. Yeah, they do too.
Yeah.
I tried like 3 times to go to Ranger school and eventually just gave up.
Yep.
So
the guard will get his slot. I think they're allotted a certain amount of them, but half the problem is that freaking half the guys they send, 3/4 of the guys that they send down there to go to Ranger school don't meet. They get there and, you know, they wash out within the first couple of weeks. You know, I guess the 5 miler is the one that usually freaking gets most everybody. That land nav, but you would think, you know,
land nav's rough.
Land nav is like freaking, you know, you could pretty much do it. You know, I get the running part, you know, but land nav, you'd think everybody, but yeah, land nav gets a lot of people. But whatever, we're getting off into the weeds again.
No, that's fine. I mean,
we always do.
We're not on Casey's time, so you can't yell at me today.
Yeah, right.
But what I think you've talked to this before, Josh, but what is the land nav course? Because I keep seeing jokes and stories about LTs getting lost on it for 18 hours or longer.
Lieutenant, just Steve, you weren't an officer, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, thank God. Lieutenants are fucking. All right? They're just, you know, they're basically kids coming right out of basic training. They go to OCS, and they come out. They don't, yeah, they're still relatively young in the process. So I mean, it's, you know, they're wet behind the ears. So you got to freaking kind of, you know, help them along. You know, well, it's the same thing as a private. You know, they're just coming out of school. You don't know anything when you're a private. You know, so everybody. That's why you're a private, you know, and everybody treats you. Right. So,
they're basically privates with authority and ego.
Yep.
I've gotten into I got into a screaming match with my LT in Carson when we were at NTC, and that was for about 5 minutes after that I was telling my squad, I'm like, well, you're gonna have a new squad leader tomorrow because my ass is getting fucking fired.
Some of the good ones will listen. The bad ones think they know everything, and the really bad ones won't listen because they think they know everything already. Right. You know, that
one actually surprised me. He came back later and was like, "Yeah, I was in the wrong," and we shook hands, and that was the end of it. And, that's not common with officers.
I've been reading some books by various retired officers and generals and such, and it seems like the good ones will lean on their NCOs when they're new to the unit. And then you have ones like on episode 16 with Chad last week, who Chad got into a shouting match after his LT fresh out of West Point got their whole convoy lost in a combat zone.
Yeah.
That's how they get promoted, though.
Right.
It's not a joke. I think I told you about my LT in Afghanistan, Gordon, who
I believe so.
His idea of a mission brief was saying a prayer and then walking out of the wire. We're like, that's cool, but like, what the fuck are we doing? And he got fired after he got caught with his own personal Glock on deployment. And he got turned in because one of our NCOs saw him and was like, this fucker's gonna get someone killed, and this is a good opportunity to get rid of him. So he got fired, and then I saw him like 3 months later, and he'd made captain. So yeah, they get promoted for doing dumb shit.
Well, making captain is automatic. So for officers, you'll get all the way up to captain, but then if you get a DNP or if they get a DNP, they won't make it past captain.
Yeah.
Where is captain on the O scale? So 01 is lieutenant.
3.
So 03.
03.
But bring back to you, Dustin. You go off on the weeds a lot here. So you said you got a promotion and then gave up on trying to get into the sniper school. What's your rank at that point?
So I was an E4 when I left the Scouts and took specialist, and I took my promotion E5 or sergeant in Alpha Company, which is a Menominee. I think that's where I first met first sergeant. He's first sergeant to me, Josh. I think that's where I first met him. Was there? I think you were platoon sergeant at the time.
Platoon daddy at that point in time.
Yeah. So I took it there because it was more money. It was a chance to advance my career. There was always the opportunity to go back to the Scouts if I wanted to. But I fell in love with Alpha. I mean, that was a really good company. We had a lot of fun. I was still really young, really wet behind the ears when it comes to the leadership roles. And I was
how many years into military at this point?
I have 14 years.
Well, I mean, during when you came over to Alpha.
4 years. Yep, 4 years. So I moved up pretty quick. And it kind of bit me in the butt as time went on. Still a little immature at that point. So it was a my way or no way kind of deal for a while. And
so you're about 25, 26 at this point?
24. Well, I should probably back up too. This was after my first deployment, by the way.
Oh,
kind of missed a big part out of that. This was after my first deployment, by the way, which made me even more mad that they weren't sending people to sniper school.
Sure.
Because we were on the
best. First deployment too?
I went to Iraq. I was in Baghdad.
Okay.
Same place as Josh there.
Whoa.
But he was. Yeah, you were on. Where were you? I was on the VBC.
Yeah, we were over there training those freaking idiot Iraqi correction officers. We got handed an MP mission.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you guys did. I kind of did too, but I was doing the PSD for.
Yeah. You got to do cool shit. We were top future. We spent like $38 million of the taxpayer dollars, handed it over to the Iraqi, and as soon as they shut the doors and we were freaking popping smoke, they rat-dicked the fuck out of that place, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh man, did they ever?
It was a waste of money. But we were so each company, when we were at BBC on the 2009-2010 deployment, like everybody had their own kind of pad. So Alpha Company was over here, Bravo Company was over here. I think you guys were right down the road from us in Alpha Company. Yeah. You guys were hanging out with the HC pukes.
No, I got detached to Delta for the deployment.
Got detached to Delta. So Delta wasn't even they were bouncing all over the place. They had you guys running all
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a horse shit deployment, man. It was a horse shit deployment. It really was.
It was still fun. I mean, like I said, I gotta leave.
It was a lot like being on active duty and freaking being in a garrison environment. Yeah, I mean, there was like, you'd go over to Cropper or whatever. Yeah, not Cropper. I forget the name of it now. Where all the officers. I mean, there was like guys hiding in freaking doorways waiting for you to go by. You know, officers would jump out and go, "Oh, you didn't salute me, soldier." You know, what the fuck are you doing?
That's how Kuwait was too.
It was
fucking miserable.
I mean, you had sergeant majors going around freaking sticking their fingers into soldiers freaking, you know, to see if they were cuffed properly. You know, you're only supposed to have 2 fingers there. You know,
we got put in formation and they made everybody hold up their hands so they could see our bracelets because we all had the paracord bracelets.
Yeah.
And they tried to make people cut them off because they weren't authorized.
Yeah.
I had a lot more fun than you guys though, because I actually left the wire on a regular basis. I mean, we were on call 24 hours a day it was Command Sergeant Major Butler, Command Sergeant Major Ashford. They were complete dickheads. You get yelled at if you had like dirt and sweat on your IBA and stuff like that.
It's a prerequisite for making Sergeant Major, is being a gigantic dickhead.
So, I mean, I actually got to leave the wire and experience the cities, you know, Taji and we went all over the place, the Green Zone. So I actually got to experience some of the different bases and stuff like that. And then we went to, oh God, what was that one way up north? It was like an 8-hour drive and they sent us up there for something. And that's when I fed a little girl. I thought it'd be nice to feed a little girl on the way back. And I threw some Pop-Tarts at her. Just smacked her right in the face with them. Like it happened in slow motion too, because we're driving and I was like, oh yeah, I could probably throw these a little early and get them to her. So I throw them out there. Nope, it just keeps going and smacks her. And her mom kind of laughs at her. And oh yeah, I had Sergeant Dill was my team leader, and then he turned to my spotter. You remember Sergeant Dill?
Good dude, really good dude.
Really good dude. But he was funny. He started laughing when that happened, but. He walked in on me once. Yeah, right after mission. Here, I'll give you guys a good story about how my Iraq deployment was. We just gotten back from mission. None of my roommates, both my roommates were gone. So I booked it back to my room, and I decided it was a good time to take care of some stress. Well, I thought I locked the door. Right. I thought I locked the door. And apparently I didn't. So I am, and this is the weirdest time I've ever done this, masturbated like this, shoulders on the bed, planked out with my knees bent. Like just going to town, like everything's spread for the door. My team leader, Sergeant Dill, bursts in the door. Step, I need to talk to. And of course, you're faced with a defining moment in your life. What do? Do you stop or do you keep going, right? And I felt like if I stopped, it would just make it more awkward. You know, like I was ashamed of what I was doing, which I wasn't. So I just kind of kept going slow, and I was like, okay. And he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, come see me when you're done. I was like, okay. And then, you know, I took a little extra long to go see him just so we could kind of both forget what just happened. But that's
you never forget something like that.
No.
As soon as you guys looked at each other in the eyes, it was right there.
Some things you can't unsee, bro.
Yeah.
Nope. So that's my deployment right there.
Sergeant Dill is like one of the most mild-mannered, quiet guys you ever meet. You meet him and he's like, "Hey, how's it going, man? What's going on? Yeah. Oh, something really bad. Oh no, that's terrible." Yeah. I've heard this same story from his perspective. I think he was a little bit more scarred than Steph here was, but
yeah. No, I've seen Daddy Dill pretty pissed off. I've been able to piss him off. Yeah, great dude. So
what was your day-to-day job when you're over there? You said you're traveling around, you know,
so I was personal security detail is what we were. Basically, if any of these higher ranking dudes wanted to go anywhere within Iraq or within our area, we had to drive them. If they couldn't fly, they would ride with us. And unfortunately, these guys love to drive more than they love to fly. So we drove all the time. And then a couple times, kind of like, have you heard of the Guardian Angel program now?
I haven't. I don't know. Steve
in the Army?
Josh.
Okay. So think of basically it was like Secret Service for these guys.
Okay.
It's the easiest way to explain it. Wherever they went, we went. We didn't follow them into the rooms very often at this time, but we'd like stand outside the door sometimes. And there was a couple of times we had to sit in on the meetings just to provide a little bit more security for them, stuff like that. But that was what we did. We jumped on to a couple prisoner transfers and stuff like that. We did a prisoner release, which was really hard to watch and do. But they were innocent. So
just escorting them out of the prison or whatever. And
yeah, we ended up, we had to pick them up from the prison, put them in some vehicles, and then escort these vehicles to the parade field, you know, the cross sabers. To there, and that's where we released them. And I think we handed them all, like they handed them all a little bit of cash and everything. I was like, so yeah, we experienced quite a bit.
Sure.
But
Well, how long were you over there on that first deployment?
I think we were in country for about 9 months.
It was 9, 10
about
months.
9-10 months.
We started phasing us back at like 9 months. I think the rest, once everybody was down,
it was like
in the 10-month area. But you know.
Yeah, between Kuwait and I think we were in Kuwait for like 3 or 4 weeks before we even hit Iraq. It seemed like we were in Kuwait forever.
Yeah.
At Buring.
Yep.
Yeah.
That place is a shithole.
Yeah. It still is.
I know. I was there for 7 months in 2015, and it fucking sucks.
I bet.
2 months.
Oh man.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
they issued us multicam before they sent us, so like got our hopes up, like, hey, we're going into Iraq, like, because this is when people like right after they were like, oh, we're out of Iraq, well, never mind, we're going back in. So as soon as they issued us multicam, like, we're going to Iraq, we're going to Syria, we're doing something. Nope, we sat in Kuwait for 7 fucking months.
I was happy, now I'm sad. Yeah.
Dustin, do you have much downtime? It sounded like you're moving all over the place.
Yes and no. There were some not like set days off, but we'd find out like a day or two there's nothing going on. So we had some downtime. I think I watched like every season of Scrubs while I was over there. I did the gym a lot, played volleyball, grilled steaks. I'm making it sound like it was a cake. It kind of was. Just had a lot of fun. I mean, with what we could. We did a lot of like barbecues as a platoon and stuff like that. I think in June when we got there, they did like a stand down for like the whole month. So there was almost like a month where we were just bored out of our minds. I went to a Crow school, so Common Remote Operating Weapon System, like the joystick and stuff like that. I went to that school while I was over there. I went to the RG-33 MRAP school while I was over there. They just, because we had so much downtime for that point, they put us through a couple schools that they could.
And were you able to use that later on through your career, or is it just I need something to do?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I know how to drive them and I know how to use it, but it's been so long. I mean, it's been 10 years since I learned how to use this thing. I've touched them a couple times since then. So it'll come back to me once they're using it. But no, it's just one of those things where it's good to have on my NCOER, my E4 eval at the time. So I went.
So while you're over there, I mean, did you get a chance to keep in touch with any friends, family back here?
Yeah, Skype was a big thing at that point. And we all paid for internet. I was young and single. I mean, 22 years old. 22, 23. So I was young and single. I had the money from the deployment, so I didn't care about paying for internet. So I had Facebook and Skype, and I Skyped people a lot. So. And
come back. I mean, well, while you're over there, I mean, I know the USO does quite a few tours, and I think it was Baghdad. Is it Baghdad or Bagram?
Yeah.
They have that big. I've seen a lot of bands go over and do shows and such like that. I mean, did you get a chance to do anything like that, or were you?
Yeah, I saw. First, we saw Craig Morgan and Chris Young. We got lucky for that one. We missed so many shows because I was gone, but I got lucky to see Craig Morgan and Chris Young do a acoustic show, which was absolutely incredible. Craig Morgan's an old Ranger, so he was excited to be there. And then Chris Young's just a cool dude. Amazing voices. And then I got to see Carlos Mencia, Jesse James, and Kid Rock all did a show one day.
Yeah,
that was before Jesse James got big, and I made her blush. As you will. So obviously you've heard of how girls get better.
Out of her too?
Yes. No, not quite. But so obviously you've heard of beauty queen for a year or something like that. Queen for a year or deployment hot. So that's like girls. You don't see a lot of girls over there, and the ones you do aren't necessarily the best looking. And this sounds really sexist, but Jessie James was like the first really good looking girl I'd seen in a while. So she sang a couple songs and everybody clapped and got quiet. And there was kind of a break for a second. And she asked the crowd if we wanted to hear her sing some more songs. And before anybody started clapping or anybody started yelling, I said, nope, just stand there and let us look at you. And then people kind of started clapping, but then it went silent for a minute because everybody kind of heard what happened. They heard what they heard. And she kind of just blushed and she stood there for a second. And then she's like, all right, we're going to sing some more songs. But that was my mouth getting me in trouble again, which happens all the time. So those were the only real shows we saw. Everybody else got to see some more just because they were there a lot. But with our schedule, we were going a little bit more.
So what do you? Yeah.
Knowing what I know about the 2009-2010 deployment, when you guys came back, when you redeployed back, did you go through anything? Because I mean, you kind of had a different experience. So I mean,
we got pretty lucky when it comes to like.
Were you good when you came back, or?
For the most part, I mean, there was a couple times over there that made me really, like I got into, I guess what you could call a Mexican standoff with the Iraqi army. We were trying to, we were trying to leave the green zone and they were trying to come in, and I believe they had like the Iraqi president with them, is what we were hearing over the radio. And every time we kept trying to inch forward to leave, this dude would like turn his turd on me and start yelling at me like, you stop, you wait, you don't drive past us. And so as soon as he turned, I turned, and we're both kind of sitting there staring at each other. We weren't like drawn on each other yet. We were both up in the air, and
there's one step away from that.
It pretty much was. We actually at one point pointed because we would, and I'll be honest with you, we would have gotten completely fucked. We would have been so fucked up. They had, I think, a tank with them. They had several Humvees, and then they had RPKs, AKs, and Dragunovs literally just lining the streets on the way back. They could have thrown a baseball back to our base faster than we could have driven it because there were that many people protecting this convoy. And we couldn't, they didn't have their paperwork right, and we just couldn't go. And I was like, no, we're getting out of here. We got to get going. We're getting yelled at from the sergeant major, stuff like that. So we kind of start inching forward more, and the guy follows me and I follow him, and we just kind of just stare at each other waiting. And fortunately we got out that way. I mean, that one was kind of like, that fucks with your head a little bit. And then there was a woman in a traffic jam that I was 99% sure this one was going to blow us up. Just everything about her body shape was off, square, boxy. Her hands were hidden. She wouldn't stop. She just kept inching closer and closer. And I actually drew up on her. And I actually told Sergeant Dill, I was like, Sergeant Dill, I'm going to kill this bitch. And he's like, Steph, just wait. I was like, nope, she's too close. I don't like this. And I was puckered and everything. And he's like, Steph, just put the gun up, get in the Humvee. If she blows up, we'll be fine. And fortunately she didn't. But it would have, I think he made the right call. I think he had a little more experience from his first deployment, which probably left me out of prison and stuff like that. But
he was on the 03-04 deployment with us.
Yeah. So I think that kind of saved me probably potentially going to prison for murder. But I mean, I felt like I would have been justified in my actions, but not for, for PTS, pretty good. I mean, I didn't like women for a while that would wear what she was wearing. She was in an all black burqa and dress and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of threw me off for a while.
How was the transition back home with the family? I mean, obviously the first deployment is a little bit like the first deployment, because you miss each other so much, but like, you get back and you're like, it's a strange feeling,
Yeah, I came back single at the time. I left engaged, came back single because, and this is the funny part, I've kept this secret from her parents, and I doubt they'll ever see this. I've kept the secret from most people. We broke it off, and I allowed her to use the excuse that it was just too hard being gone. The military life wasn't for her. It turns out that we just weren't compatible because I was a Gemini and she was a cheating whore. So I guess like 3 days after we left for Texas, she was sleeping with her ex-boyfriend, and then she was sleeping with a couple other dudes, and we kind of just drifted apart. So I ended up breaking it off with her. And then when we came home, like I said, I was single, I was young. I think I was drunk for the first 3 months, to be honest with you. So if you want to call it struggling to transition back, I would go to bed with a beer and I'd wake up with a beer. And I did that for about 3 months after we got back. So
what made you want to stop with the alcohol, going to bed and waking up with beer?
I think I met a girl. I think I started dating a girl, and she still drank, but I started spending a little more time with her than I would in the bars. Plus, I think I started milking cows, and that was at like 4 a.m, and that was never fun. And then the other big reason was this was actually a year later, because I was still drinking on and off since then pretty heavily. But my best friend who I'd seen that night ended up going home and getting shot in his apartment. His name was Josh Kaur. I don't know if you remember him at all, Josh, or not, but Kaur from K-U-E or K-U-R-E-R. He was from Delta.
Sounds familiar.
Do you remember Anthony Velour?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the dude that Anthony Velour shot in the apartment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he ended up, Josh went home because he was drunk. He got kicked out of the bar because he was drunk, went home, and then Anthony Velour came over. And I think Josh had a judge, like the multi-caliber judge, and Tony took it and he thought he unloaded it, put it together, and told Josh if he didn't come to the bar with me, he was going to pull the trigger. Josh said no, he pulled the trigger, nothing happened. Says it again, pulls the trigger and blows a hole in his chest. Like I was at the apartment like 3 minutes after it happened. That was probably the roughest. But then we had a couple suicides afterwards. When we got back, Tanner Severson, our medic, they said it was I won't say they said it was an accident, like a weapons accident, but in reality, we all kind of saw him a couple days before, and we said something, but he was okay. And next thing you know, he's dead. So that was kind of rough, but otherwise, I mean, transitioning back's never been too hard for me. At least at that time, it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Just being so young and single. So,
what was it like for friends and family? I mean, I've talked about it before on other episodes and with conversation with Steve and my friends. War didn't really become a real thing outside of Hollywood or books and video games until my friends are going overseas. So that's when kind of woke up for me. I mean, you said your parents, they didn't really understand. I mean, did it ever seem to click with them?
Yes and no. I think they like to turn the blind eye, if you will, as to what I do, just because, like I said, my dad is a very, very passive person. He's an amazing man, but he's not a fighter. He doesn't really have a violent bone in him. My mom is just manipulative and sadistic. And I kind of got, let me rephrase that. I'm adopted. So I keep leaving big things out. I'm adopted. My stepdad, who's now my dad, because I'm adopted through him, is very calm natured. My biological father's a little more blunt and forced, stuff like that. But with me finally telling them kind of one day what my job was before I deployed, they turned the blind eye to that violence because they didn't like that. So even when I got home, they didn't really understand what was going on over there or what it was, just because they, like most people, which is why we're in some of the situations we're in today, is they just turn a blind eye because they would rather not know.
Until some jackass with a microphone asks you to come on a podcast.
That's right. No, and that's fine. He, after my second deployment, during this next deployment, he kind of understood a little bit more. Plus my little brother ended up joining, so he talks a lot about it, and we have kind of that bond and talk in front of him. But I turned into this sounds kind of crazy, and it makes sense. I enjoy kind of doing violence, if that makes sense. It's become a big part of me through the military, through just the way things are going in the world. I believe that violence sometimes is the answer. So because of that, I've learned to enjoy it, and just had some events through life that have made me really think that this is a good path. So they just don't like that. So let us turn the blind eye.
What about your friends? I mean, anybody start talking to you or asking you questions about what it was like being in the military?
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple people join after I got back, up after me and stuff like that. But again, I think until you start talking to them, they'll ask you the normal questions. Did you kill anybody? Did you see a lot of dead bodies? Stuff like that. But they don't really ask like, well, what actually happened? They didn't ask you like, did you do any good and stuff like that, where, we went and the people our sergeant majors were getting driven to were guys trying to set up and help keep the court system going. So I felt like at the time we were doing good. Mm-hmm. Now I have different opinions, but so they focus on those questions, which I think is a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, you shouldn't really ask people, some of them, but a lot of them I think are still ignorant, even though we've been at war for 18 years, 20 years now, 20 years now, almost. That, yeah, they've just done such a good job hiding it from the world that, you know, and then you get the normal thank you for your service and stuff like that. But
I was like getting that question. You know, you get that. You invariably get it. You know, 1 out of 10 people kill anybody.
Yeah.
First, always used to piss me off, but now I'm just kind of like, you know, you got to have fun with it, right? You know, especially if I'm into my cups a little bit. I'll just be like, oh no, only when we were hungry. Yeah. Just have fun with it. Yeah. Only when just for therapy. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You
got to.
Yeah.
So how long were you back states? I assume you said that was your first deployment. I imagine.
Yeah, there was 10 years between deployments.
Jeez.
We were slotted in between there, but they just never fell through. I think we were slotted for Qatar at one point, which would have been an absolute vacation. You were still for that one, but
was slotted for that.
It was.
Oh.
It was 10 years between deployments, and I mean I had a lot happen in my military career. I got promoted again.
Sure.
I did a ton of Army schools. I've been to I've been to squad designated marksman. I'm air assault. That one was more recent, which I don't recommend if you're old. But I did I was a UPL, so I did some. I always learned if you do some BS schools, they'll send you some better schools. So I did UPL, unit prevention leader. I did the guy that did the piss tests. The EST 2000, which is now the EST 2. I'm certified in that. Woo! That's actually a really good program.
Which is what?
It's like a virtual shooting range.
Sure.
I always thought the EST was kind of fun, man.
It's I actually am now so good on it that I can actually create my own lanes. Because the programs are not yet, I started to create the new qualification table on it. So you can make it have pop-up targets. You can have it make stationary targets. So you can do it's basically shooting a rifle for free, paid for by the American taxpayer, so we can get better. I mean, I got to the point where I think I could engage 17 targets 4 times in 18 seconds. And it was transitioning targets. So it was, we got good and had a lot of fun with that. What else? I've done cold weather ops. So I'm cold weather operations, which was a good course in Fort McCoy. It was absolutely freezing and miserable. It was a week of classroom and literally just a week of walking around and surviving in the cold weather. Yeah, I learned, I do love snowshoeing. Oh, and we did ski for 2 days. We downhill skied for a day and a half. And then we did what they call is it skjording or skjording or something? It's where you get pulled behind a sled or something, which is actually a military tactic.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you get, so it's usually on the snow vehicles that the Army has. I don't know what they're called, but they'll tie ropes behind them and they'll pull light infantry behind them on cross country skis and skis. So the Army actually has skis that you can wear that you actually just put your Mickey Mouse boots in, and you can strap them down to make them downhill, or you can let them up to be cross country skis.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
it's pretty cool, man.
It was a good course.
So now you took a 6th spot right over in Bravo Company.
Yeah.
How was that? I was getting bumped up like that. That had to be a pretty cool feeling. Well, I know.
Yeah. So I got promoted in 2013. So I got my 6 in 6 years. So again, I moved up pretty quick. At that point, I had kind of earned a name for myself around the battalion. People kind of knew me, and they knew that I was kind of a hard ass. Again, it was kind of one of those my way or no way for a while. And just really kind of more old school, because the guys I grew up with were very old school. I was in kind of that weird transition phase, the end of BDUs to the beginning of ACUs. So I got a lot of the old school style punishment and a lot of the new school. So I struggled to blend them together still, but I ended up having some amazing team leaders that I fell in love with. At first, we didn't get along the best, but then they transferred out. And then I got some other guys. I had Sergeant Flugleiser and Sergeant Roach, or Sergeant Flugleiser and Sergeant Johnson, all phenomenal guys. And we ended up having some of the best squads in the state through those guys. And that was, it was a good place, but again, because I had a name for myself, it followed me everywhere I go. It still follows me in the Army, and it will for the rest of my life, good or bad. Right now it's kind of bad, but So I struggled to integrate into that unit pretty much until the day I got kicked out. But I ended up getting to the point where I focused more on my ability to train soldiers to a standard that was above the Army standard, because the standard is the minimum and people don't understand that. So if you do the Army standard, you're basically a minimum soldier, which is horseshit. So, that's what I focused on. And it kind of earned me a reputation for that, for being a good training NCO, that other people would come to me. And that's how I kind of found my way into the unit there. But because they all had deployed together on the first deployment for our first deployment in 2009, 2010, they were all kind of already buddy. So trying to come into that was a little rough.
Were you getting pushback from the guys? I mean, here you're trying to push the training standard up.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people like to take that path of least resistance.
Yeah, not from my Joes. I mean, they would struggle a little bit at first, but then I started to show them that, like, if you guys work hard, I work hard. So there was like one night, I think I took like 6 firewatch shifts or, stuff like that for them, so they could all get a couple extra hours of sleep. And they kind of learned then that it's a give and take. You give me some, I'll give you some. That was the day that an OC yelled at me because I tried to fight a battle naked.
What?
I had done, Firewatch. I'd been up for like a day and a half. So I was like, I'm going to bed for a little bit, and it was hot. So I stripped down to my skivvies and took those off inside my tent and took a nap. And next thing you know, we're getting attacked. And this OC comes up to me and he kicks me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm sleeping. I'm not doing anything right now. Leave me alone." And he's like, "Well, your guys are getting attacked right now." I was like, "Yeah, I know. I hear it. They're calling up what they need to call. Can you hear it?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "Well, shouldn't you be go drive?" I was like, "No, they got it. They're good." And he yelled at me. He's like, "You need to get up now, get your gear on and get up there." I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yes." So I stood up, butt naked, started throwing my gear on and started running over towards the line. He's like, "Sorry, what are you doing?" I was like, "What you told me to." And he's like, "You need to put some clothes on." I was like, "What do you want me to do?" And he's like, "Put some clothes on." And at that point, the battle was over. So I just crawled right back into bed. But no, that was fun. So those guys really liked that kind of aspect. And then I learned to explain the whys. I've learned that you can literally get somebody dog shit if you tell them why, if you explain why, and you explain it in a way that they understand. So that really helped a lot for me.
So from there, this is with, you said Bravo?
Bravo, yep.
Bravo. Where'd you go from there?
So I'm kind of in a limbo right now. I guess some dirty laundry. I ended up getting kicked out. I actually just for the deployment, they took my squad from me and sent me to HHC. And that's a weird topic, but more or less, I started to push back against upper leadership because of bad information was getting passed down. And as an NCO, I felt it was my responsibility to protect my guys from that. And the other thing is, my wife was 2 years ago, was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And we had decided right away that, because there was talk about this deployment, that we were still going to go on the deployment because TRICARE would be free at the time. And I wouldn't have to pay for it. And the money we would make from that deployment would be absolutely amazing. So we decided to go. Well, some guys didn't like that. And felt that it was their responsibility and duty to write letters to the command, that they felt that I was abandoning my family as a husband and as a father because I was going on this deployment with a sick wife who could, potentially die at any moment. And because of that, I think they had used something that had happened earlier as a scapegoat to get me out. I was charged with sexual harassment against a guy in the Army. Because what I thought and everybody else thought was joking. I think he was coached, but that's neither here from me or say, but I basically joked and said, "Show me your dick." To me, it's kind of like a test of a man. Like, what kind of a man are you? Are you willing to literally just put it all out there and be part of us? Or are you going to just hide and keep it away? And never wanted to see his penis, never anything like that. Well, next thing I know, I'm getting brought up on charges for sexual harassment. So I ended up kicking me out of that company to HHC, where I deployed with, to Afghanistan. And now I'm kind of in a limbo where I'm still technically on Bravo's books, but I can't return there under this command.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a new Army.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Crazy
I'll
stuff.
tell you. I'll tell you more details about it. Just I'm trying to keep a lot of anonymity or whatever the word is. Anonymity.
Yep.
That's something that lives in the
Anonymity. But it ended up working out okay on the deployment. I got a pretty decent gig as a battle NCO in TK.
Has this experience now obviously has kind of soured your relationship with the Army, obviously.
Yes, very much so.
It's definitely changed the nature of the dynamics of your relationship with the Army now. So now going forward, where do you think this is going to take you? Or what do you think 5 years from now? You got what, 14 years in, so you got 6 years till retirement at a minimum, right? Yep. So do you think this is going to cut your career short, or do you think that you're going to put forth an effort to keep going, or maybe transfer to another unit, say fuck Wisconsin, go over to Minnesota? I don't know what you're thinking, but so where's the thought process going with this?
I'm kind of working the potential for an interstate transfer to Minnesota. That was brought up today, but I struggle with my dirty laundry. If that is something that they see before they accept me, are they going to say, we'll accept you, but not as an E6? You're going to have to go down to like an E4, and which I won't do. Definitely a sour feeling. Like, to be honest with you, what's that?
And if you took a bump and you took a reduction in pay, you would still be on TRICARE though.
Yes. Yeah. Which was awesome that I didn't get, like, I didn't get charged in Article 15 or anything like that. I didn't lose any of my benefits. I did get barter reenlistment for a while on the deployment, but that's all behind me now. I had an amazing deployment. I did an amazing job for a lot of people. I was praised, stuff like that. But I definitely have a sour taste just because of the experience we've had with some of the leadership. And this is the way the Army's going as a whole. It's not to me the Army that I joined. And to be honest with you, I struggle. There's some days that if we didn't need the TRICARE, I mean, Lauren's chemo is like $46,000 a month. If we didn't need that TRICARE, there's times when I would probably try to just separate now. But fortunately, with 14 years in, I'm coming onto that 15-year mark, which I can try to medically retire. I got several herniated discs. I've got nerve damage, sciatica. I've had 9 concussions. I got a lot wrong with me, so I might try to look that path sooner. Otherwise, no, I'm going to finish out my career, whether I have a sour taste or not. Like, I'm not going to let a few sour eggs or sour moments dictate or define my entire military career. I was and still am an amazing NCO and can literally produce some of the most amazing junior leaders and soldiers out there. And I stand by that. It's like I kind of told you in basic, if I believe in something, I'm going to speak, I'm going to say it. And I'm not done yet. So if I don't get medically retired, I will finish out, whether I'm broken or not. I'll finish out my 20 years and get promoted to a point where I can say, look at you, you stupid fucks, but.
Do you worry about, if you stay in, since you are, as you said, broken, getting stuck behind a desk? And you said you like the violence, you like to go out and, I think, Josh, you've called it play in the sand before on earlier episodes.
Yeah, it does worry me, but it's one of those things, it's a really hard balance, because part of it is I want to push myself and continue what I love. But the other part is am I going to be able to walk at 40? If I have these herniatus now, like I just called Bravo Company and HHC and told them I want to go they just offered some slots for Mountain Warfare. Get the Ram's Head, right? That'd be absolutely insane and awesome. But it's miles and miles and miles of rocking up mountains every day and stuff like that. And it's, one of the things, like, I want to do this, so I'm going to do it, but am I going to hurt myself even more in the process?
Yes, you will.
I know I will. But at the same time, you know what? That's right. As soon as I get out of the Army, there's a lot of things I can do to help with pain and with all that good stuff. So to me, it's
true.
It's a 50-50 for me. I'm going to continue to do what I love, but I'm going to make sure that I can still walk.
What do you think, Steve? Does this all sound familiar to you? Have you heard this stuff before? Or?
Yeah, I actually, I only did 5 years active before I got out and switched to reserves. And part of it was I had another squad leader who worked with me, and he had been in since he was 20 or 21. He was at 14 years, so he was like 35, 36. He was on his 6th deployment, and he looked like he was in his mid 50s.
Yeah.
Like it had taken such a toll on his body, and I'm like, I don't fucking want that for me. I'm out.
Yeah.
And after my second deployment, I was done.
I call it accelerated body aging, because I've had a VA doctor ask me, like, I don't understand you young guys with all this pain. I was like, well, have you ever done anything? He's like, well, no. I was like, you don't understand, but it's accelerated body aging. I mean, I'm 35 years old and my body's like 65 years old because of the amount of pressure and stress you put through it on a regular basis throughout the Army. Even though I'm in the National Guard, I've never felt that way. Like, I do something every day to better myself. So I work out regularly, all that kind of stuff. So I'm still putting that the damage on my body every day that the average person isn't.
That's so what I tell people is, like, I might be 32, but my knees and my back are in their mid 50s.
Yeah. Like, I have 35. I roll out of bed sometimes because I cannot sit up.
Yeah. I'm a living embodiment of that. I mean, my knees are gone, my ankle's gone, my lower back is gone. I've started to have shoulder problems now, and I self-medicate as well, but
yeah.
I'm almost 50 now, and it's getting harder as I'm getting older, and so I hear stuff like this, and it's always like, well, careful. Mountain Warfare School sounds awfully fun, and that fucking ram's head on your chest is a dope motherfucker. I mean, that's a badass badge to wear on, because it's rare.
Yeah.
Rarely guys with a ram's head. I've only seen one guy in my 20 years. I only saw one guy with it.
Yep.
But you pay for it. You pay for it later on down the road when you get to be like 47, and you're like. I don't know if this fucking thing's worth it.
I learned that, badges, it's never worth it for the badge. I know when we thought, maybe we're going into Syria, there were guys like, fuck yeah. If they, if they classify that as something different from War on Terror, I could get a fucking star on my CIB. And like, man, earning my CIB was a lot of fucking work, and like, I don't know if I'm going to survive getting a goddamn star on it, and that's not worth it.
That's not CIB is combat infantry badge. So what's the star?
The star is for additional campaigns.
Sure.
So the only people you will see with a star currently are those that were in Desert Storm.
Okay. Because
everything Iraq and Afghanistan is considered War on Terror. It's just one big conflict. So once you get the CIB once, like you don't get anything additional until, we pick a fight with someone else.
I only met 2 people in my career who had CIB with a star on. So, one
I can't even.
Scott Knighty. You remember Knighty?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so, perspectively speaking, you get to chalk that up, and you get to be able to say, yeah, I did that. But, at the same time, you're going to be like, once you hit my age, man, 47, it's like,
I did that.
Yeah. It's like, well, yeah. Because, I mean, it's like freaking, dude, it's nonstop, man. I mean, every day it's pain management,
Yep.
And I don't help it out either, because I do.
You just don't recover from stuff as quick.
Yeah.
Either. Like my first month in Afghanistan, we were closing down a JSS, and I was on guard, on the perimeter for like 24 hours. And what little sleep we got would be inside of a Max Pro. And I was coming out after like a 45-minute nap. It's like 3 a.m, and I missed a step, and I had full kit on as a saw gunner. I had 80, 90 pounds at a minimum, and I missed a step, and I went down on my knee. And it hurt, and I wasn't wearing knee pads because fuck knee pads, and it hurt like a motherfucker. But I didn't say shit to anyone, and I just did, the rest of the deployment with that. And eventually, after like 3 months, it stopped hurting, and I was like, all right, fuck it. That's done with. And I was like 23 at the time. And then when I got back from Kuwait, I tried going mountain climbing, and I immediately tore my hamstring, and it took me 8 months to recover from that. Fucking kicked my ass.
I was the same when I first went. I didn't bring anything up. I didn't really talk about anything, but this second deployment, I documented everything.
Well, you think you're like some kind of hard ass, and then you realize later that you just fucked yourself, because now you have no paperwork. Like I didn't get shit from the VA when I got out because there was no paperwork. Like all this shit that happened to me. Yeah.
The Army trains you that way.
It does. It does.
On, do the mission.
Fucking drink water and shut up.
Drink water, shut up.
And then you get out and they're like, why didn't you document this?
Why didn't you document it? Because I passed the fucking school. I didn't want to have to do the school over again.
Because I'm not. Because I'm not a bitch. Fuck you, Doc.
Wait, do you guys foresee down the road the military as a whole working to correct this, whether it's training or maybe just get better boots?
No, they talk about it, but it's the same thing where they talk about like, you know, if you need help, get help, you know, with the whole, especially with like suicide, and they're always like, you know, there's no stigma attached to it, but absolutely there's fucking stigma attached to it. And absolutely like people will look at you like you're less if you ask for help.
They will create another PowerPoint presentation that you have to watch around Christmas time or around the New Year, just like with all the sexual harassment and the sexual assault and the freaking anti-suicide stuff. That does not work.
It doesn't do anything. It's just them washing their hands a bit. They're like, oh, well, you know, we told him not to kill himself, so I don't know what to tell you. They're like, oh, we told him, you know, not to fucking sexually harass people, but they, you know, I can't tell you why he did it anyway. Not our fault. We told him not to do it. That's they just
can that even change from the top down, or does that?
Yeah, I disagree with you too. I think the Army is going to change where it comes to documenting things, where it comes to training overall, and the Army as a whole is going to go back more old school. Documentation, you know, we'll talk with your stigma first. Okay, so I'll help break the stigma right now. I am on antidepressants right now because I am depressed as fuck. I have mental health issues like crazy. Obviously, my wife is dying. I've got 2 kids I got to raise on my own here soon. Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills at the time. I'm depressed. I am
throw the fucking pandemic on top of that.
Yep, the pandemic. Yeah. I'm starting my first counseling session on Monday. Yes, the stigma's there. However, I think that fortunately my generation, and I say my generation, you know, I'm a millennial. And I'm a proud millennial, very proud millennial, because I think millennials are actually going to change the world. It's not going to be for a couple generations after us. It's not going to be before us. It's millennials are going to change the world.
I agree with you on that. I think our generation gets a lot of flack, but we have borne the brunt of the largest conflict, the longest conflict in American history.
Look at Madison Cawthorn, a 25-year-old congressman. You know, I believe boomers have created this mess, and I believe millennials, even though they give us the most shit, are going to fix it. As for training, I think what's going to happen is, with the way the world's going, we're going to be in another conflict, and our Army is getting so soft that we're going to get our asses handed to us. We're not going to lose, but there's going to be a couple battles where we just get fucked up, and it's going to be devastating. And that's going to be like, oh shit, what happened? And they're going to get these guys that, like me, that have stayed in, that have been there, or, you know, even down the road that have been able to get that instilled in them, that are going to say, this is what happened. You went soft. You stopped letting us punish these guys the way we needed to not even punish, how to correct them, how to build them the way that we should. It's so soft now that they don't understand that combat is real, war is real, that I think that our generations are going to fix that as well. And for the paperwork, it's because of the older guys like you and me and everything else that keep saying, like, yeah, I screwed myself. I told my guys before this deployment, the younger generation, you document everything. If you get a hangnail, you document it. If you stub your toe, document it. And I think that part's going to change because, again, enough of us are like, you know what? We realize that the Army's not going to do shit for us. We have to do it for ourselves. So let's start looking after each other.
I actually agree with you on that. I mean, when I was in Carson, I had a private who was one of the best privates I had. Like he was squared away. He was motivated. He was good at PT. He was a good shot. He didn't fuck around. And then one day he had a seizure, and they were like, get his ass out of here. We're medically discharging him. And they were trying to do it as fast as they could. And I was like, fuck no, dude. Like, this isn't your fault. Look, you drag out this medical shit for 2 more months, you get your GI Bill. Yeah. Like, this isn't your fault. You're not a shitty soldier. And they were trying to and they knew that too. So they were trying to get him out as quickly as they could so they could fuck him over with that. And I'm like, no, no, drag your feet. Like, this isn't your fault. You're getting fucked over. Like, might as well get your GI Bill out of it.
Yeah. I think the day of blindly following orders is kind of past. I think as NCOs, we've seen enough now through the war, what works and what doesn't. I think one of the biggest things is, just because the leader says this is the way it is, doesn't necessarily mean this is the way it is. You need to make sure that you're understanding fully. And if you have questions, ask. Because a lot of times it was like, this is what it is, shut up and go do it. Where you're like, well, hey, and like, nope, just go do it. And now I think we're fighting back. Like I've been in so many arguments with upper leadership about information being passed out and stuff like that, I mean, I've gotten my ass chewed and smoked so many times that I'm funny, but you got to at this point because you just get, you get so much bad information and it just gets worse as it comes down. So it's like,
yeah,
you finally got to speak up.
I found that made me a better leader because when I got back from my first deployment, they made me a team leader. I was like you. I was a hard ass. I had 2 privates go AWOL on me. They probably considered killing me because I fucking rode them day in and day out. And then once I PCS'd, I kind of chilled out a little bit. And I found when I did that and when I started, giving my guys the why more and sticking up for them more, I was a much better leader for it. And I was much more successful. And once I stopped owning the shitty policies of upper leadership, because you get stuff from higher up and they're like, you own this. This is your policy. You have to sell this. And I realized after a while, I'm like, you're only saying that because you know that it's a dog shit policy and you want me to fucking pay for it. And yeah, I found that I was a better leader once I chilled out.
The hardest job that I had as a first sergeant was being a bullshit filter.
Yeah.
It is the most difficult thing you have to do because you're looking at this stuff coming down, and it's literally a sewer pipe, and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? This is ridiculous. I'm not telling my guys to do this. You can eat a fucking dick. No, I'm not fucking doing this, And it was astoundingly difficult to do. Because I mean, some of it's, you have no choice. It's just, But at the same time, you once you get good at kind of doing that and people see you freaking really kind of struggling with it, it becomes almost a benefit to you because, they know that you're freaking, they see that you're freaking, first sergeant is going to make us do that. I'll give you an example. During AT, their annual training events, they would say that anybody, if you were walking around, even around your hooches and stuff, everybody had to be in battle rattle 100% of the time. No PCs in the field, no patrol caps in the field. And it was like, I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not going to make a guy walk around. If he's just sitting outside of his hooch, he doesn't have to be in full bed. No, we're not doing this shit. No, And so it almost becomes a risk mitigation, where you're performing the same task on your own guys to try to freaking so they don't tear you from limb, you're being a dickhead leader, but I always applied it as like, well, am I going to do that shit? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make my guys do it either, So I understand what you guys are saying, but I will say this: I love being retired.
Just to go back, Dustin, you're saying about how the Army's getting softer and softer. It seems to be, I'd say, either a cycle or it's the old adage of back in my day, we had to walk uphill both ways to school through 20 feet of snow. Like I said, I've been reading more books, and right now I've been reading About Face by Lieutenant David Hackworth. And he talks about the story Willie Lump Lump, and listeners can go Google that. I'm not going to go through the whole story and butcher that, but the gist of it is that, Private Willie complains that he's having to learn to use how to bayonet, and he doesn't want to, and he complains. He writes a letter to his mom. Mom writes to senator calls up the general and goes, why are we using bayonets? It's 2021. There's no reason for this. And then, long story short, Willie gets killed by the enemy with bayonet because he didn't know how to use his own. I mean, do you think that's what's going on?
Yeah, actually, I do. Funny story about that. I was one of the last, actually, I think it was the last class in Benning to go through the bayonet course. I graduated expert with a bayonet. So if they come for us, they're not going to get me. I do. I think that's what it is. I think they, if you watch the news, they just got rid of the shark attack, which was one of the most amazing events in the military. It's where you put your head down on your bags. They drive around in circles for like an hour, literally just in circles. So you have no idea where you are, even though you're only like half a mile from where you were. And then all of a sudden it stops and you sit there and the doors open. You're like, all right, what's going on? And then all hell breaks loose. And it's just nonstop yelling and smoking for a good hour or 4. They got rid of that. Now it's something different. You can't smoke soldiers anymore. They get their phones and all that other stuff. And it's, we're making all these accommodations for everybody and everybody can do this, everybody can do that. It's like it's a social experiment now, to the point where, one kid complains and next thing you know, the senator's calling saying, oh, this drill sergeant's a piece of shit because he yelled at my student, and it's kind of just like how schools are going. It's not the teacher's fault anymore or the student's fault anymore. It's the teacher's fault. And I think that's how basically we're getting Joes now. They don't have to pass a PT test in basic to graduate basic. If I remember that right, they don't have to anymore. So we're getting these soldiers.
That's not new. We got a kid in 2012 who couldn't pass a PT test, and he was one of the ones I drove AWOL because I spent an entire 5-mile run screaming at him. I couldn't talk after that, and then 30 minutes later, they were like, "He didn't show up for formation." I'm like, fuck, he's gone.
Looking like here's some controversy. I don't know if I can say this on your show, but transgender, right? Letting transgender. There's a lot that comes with that, and if they are 100% off of hormone meds and 100% healthy, so with that, sure, whatever. I don't care. I don't think anybody cares. But with that, comes the high suicide rate, comes with all that hormone therapy. You have to do some of that. We don't have time to worry about that stuff. We're out in the field for how long? I've gone 2-3 weeks without a shower. I get yeast. I got a yeast infection on my thighs because we were so dirty. Now.
That's so hot.
I got athlete's ass.
Yeah.
I got fucking athlete's ass. I was like, I had to go to the drill sergeant and he was like, don't show me. I'll take your word for it. Cause it was like, I couldn't see it, but it was like, it hurt like a bitch. It was red, itchy. And then I went into to the fucking sick hall and they're like, you've got athlete's foot on your ass.
So and I think they're just trying to appease everybody and war doesn't appease anybody. I mean, I when we were in Iraq, I had to look a kid in the face and decide if I was going to shoot him or not because I thought he was going to shoot me. And that's not something that you can, you have time to deal with in those other moments if you're under the weather or, you're not getting things like that. And if you're just a kid that was babied this whole time, next thing you know, that kid did have a weapon and he just blasted your whole squad because you hesitated and couldn't make a decision because you were babied through basic and through your military career. And I think that's where you get a lot of the upper leadership that are just shit. They only look out for themselves because they're soft. Bad hunters and all that.
I agree with that to an extent, but at the same time, I feel there is a way to mold soldiers and to make sure that they are resilient without just making them do push-ups all the time. I've actually found I found soldiers that, like, I had a soldier when I was in Carson who I never had to smoke him. Like, if he was pretty squared away, but if he ever fucked around, all I had to say was like, I'm disappointed. I expected better of you. And that would just fucking crush him. Like, I think part of it was he looked up to me a lot, but that would just, like, I could make him do push-ups for an hour, or I could just be like, I'm fucking disappointed in you. And the second one would just devastate him. Like, he'd look like he was going to cry. And I don't have to sit there and waste anyone's time and making him do push-ups that he's not going to learn from. And I think part of the problem with the Army is a lot of NCOs are just a hammer and they treat every soldier like a nail. And I mean, it is stupid that, you can't make them do more than 5 push-ups now. But I think that we as, NCOs have to kind of rise to that challenge and figure out a way to get around it.
I definitely agree. I think you get way more with respect and dignity, and you will get a lot more out of actually talking to your soldiers and your Joes and your subordinates than just constantly yelling all the time, going, this is my way, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, we've sat here talking the last couple of minutes freaking bad mouthing. Tell me something good that you freaking have gotten done. Like, tell me something good. Yeah. Tell me something. What's something, like, I can tell you, like, my philosophy on life is directly, I can directly relate it to my experiences in the Army. I think I got a pretty unique philosophy, and I think I've got a pretty good outlook, I think I got shit figured out, you know?
Yeah, you do. I mean, you're definitely a guy we look up to.
You know, tell me something
no, I
that
have.
He's done positively for you, you know?
Yeah, I have. I feel like I talk about that. I have had an amazing military experience. Like I said, it's been a third of my life now at this point. Actually, more. Yeah, literally a third of my life, maybe a little bit more that I've been in the Army. I've met some amazing people. You know, first Sarneed's here, Josh. Other people that I still talk to. I got my buddy Rip. Some other guys in this last one. You know, some lifelong friendships. I'm not a complete fat ass for it. I'm not 6 feet under. I'm not in prison, which was potentials, you know, right? I do like to think about how much money the Army's spent on my head and my body, you know, like just the amount of information that has been put into it that most people wouldn't even be able to fathom. Air assault, love air assault school. That was one of my biggest dreams. And it took me 12 years to get. I got it just before we deployed in 2019. So
cheers.
Yeah, that one was fun. I almost died there, bronchitis.
What is air assault school in
Air assault.
Air assault is, I mean, it entails a lot, but the ultimate end goal is that you do things with helicopters, with rotary wing aircraft, whether it's like sling loads, so you know how they pick things up from the ground, attached by like ropes, stuff like that. You do that, and then it's also like air assault missions, so like rappelling from helicopters and stuff like that. Being able to like guide helicopters in, find landing fields, things like that. They kind of teach you stuff like that. So it's not everything, but like the school is, the school is actually, they call it the hardest 10 days in the Army. And they say it used to be. I still think it's pretty hard. Like you get there on day 0 and before you're not even in the school when you show up, like you're just slotted. And then they make you go through, you get your ass smoked, and then you got to do a 2-mile run in uniform. You get to wear tennis shoes. And then after that, you got to put your boots back on, and then you got to go through the obstacle course. Then you get smoked some more. And then after that, if you pass all that, you get in, and then you do like 2 days of classroom. And then you do a 6-mile road march, which is timed with a packing list. And if you're missing anything from your packing list, you fail. And then you do some more classes, and you sling load tests, and you do rappelling. And then you finish it off. Literally, the day we graduated was 3 hours after a 12-mile road march. We woke up at like 2 a.m, had to be out there by 3. Started this 12-mile road march, did the layout, and then we had to go clean and pack and then go. We actually had a guy fail air assault school based off of his layout. The very, very last layout. And do you know what he was missing? What? His dog tags. He failed the school. He had to watch us all graduate. Fortunately for him, I think he just has to go back and do the 12-mile road march again within like 6 months is all he had to do. And then he could go right back through it. But, yeah, I mean, I've met some amazing, I think people is the biggest experience to the military. I think the military makes people pretty bitter sometimes just because they see the realities of the world. But I think it makes you appreciate things more. Like I love getting mail still, you know?
Yeah.
I'll just give me your address.
Kind of condition.
I'll just forward mine to you. You know have all of it.
Right. So I have a friend who's been sending me letters and stuff like that, who actually he uses wax in his own like press, like stationary press, whatever it is. It's absolutely incredible. Like when I get those, I'm like, sweet, I feel so fancy.
That's some bougie ass shit there, man. Dude. That's doing like a wax like back in the 1800s and stuff.
That's my sugar daddy.
I kind of run up and read one of these letters.
Right. No, they're pretty decent. Like he sent me, I got a Yeti for Christmas from him. Like a Yeti cooler.
What's up?
I got a Yeti cooler. One of the soft bag ones for Christmas from him.
Cool, man.
Yeah. So he's a good dude. But no, I mean, I'm starting to use my GI Bill now, and things like that. Sorry. So that's good. I gotta walk with you for a second. I gotta get my phone. Yeah, I started to use my GI Bill to go to school, and I've learned I like the medical field, so I'm going into the medical field now. So yeah, it's a good time.
So do you have plans? You said you want to finish out, your 6 years or medically retire, but have you started to think what you want to do after that?
Yeah. So right now I'm a certified nursing assistant. I work in a nursing home all over the area around here. I'd like to get in my RN. I'm trying to go to school for that. So that's good there.
Hey, use that GI Bill.
Yeah, no, I am.
It's like the best thing
Minnesota,
to get out of the Army.
ever legalizes cannabis, I'd like to get involved in that industry, but I can't do that in the Army. So that's mostly because of my wife. But yeah. So that's, I think, what do we do? Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think that would ever change in the Army? I can understand, like, don't be smoking or doing edibles on deployment, but if you're back home and you're just doing training cycles or, you know, your 9-to-5s.
If it becomes federally legalized, they are going to have a hard time not allowing soldiers to do it with the alcohol problems that they have. There's no way they're going to be able to allow soldiers not to use cannabis. I mean, they're already working with they're already working with tests that they can do to determine how recent you would use THC if it's still in your system. I mean, if it's still actively in your system. So I mean, as long as you're,
they're in a bit of a quandary or a pickle over it.
Yeah.
Because they know there are some benefits, just pain management alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, even CBD, I've been seeing in more circles.
They can't allow it because you know, they can't allow it because it freaking, you know, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. You know, they're really stuck on it right now. You know, and unless it becomes legal at the federal level, you know, their hands are pretty much tied on them.
Right.
I think we're closer to that than people realize. And
I hope, yeah.
And you know, I know what you're saying to them being in a quandary, but you have to keep in mind this is the same Army that still requires people to shave because of, you know, gas masks in World War I. They don't like changing shit.
No, they don't. That's what I'm saying. That's essentially what I'm saying is, you know, they don't like having paradigm shifts or freaking, you know, these massive changes that come down. You know,
right.
Shit, look at all the pushback that came just for allowing females in the military, not in the infantry, just in the military alone. Look at I mean, it was the old timers were dragged, kicking and screaming along with them. You know, that was a hard fight. It was a really hard fight. You know.
Yeah.
You think it's more plausible that it go like some of the states where California being the big one that legalized medically first for X number of years and then legalized across the board kind of situation?
I have no idea, man. I don't know how it would all shake out. It would have to happen at the federal level, because the branches of the service, they're you know, it's run at the federal level. You know, you can say, hey, like let's say they start doing that, and California National Guard says it's okay. You know, you guys can use medical marijuana, but boom, the federal government says no, you can't. You know. So all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of California units that get freaking activated for federal duty. You know, they're all going to fucking piss hot, you know, because it was okay to do it in California.
Right.
I got really bad glaucoma, Sergeant. I don't know, you know. It's like,
and I don't imagine the Fed, if they get activated, they don't have like a 31-day window. It's bad, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to mitigate stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, I mean, you know, but it puts them in. They're gonna every single freaking logical explanation that you can come up with. They're gonna fight, and it's gonna just be this. And then you'll get freaking, you know, the red team versus blue team bullshit that happens. You know, it'll become political.
How many Medal of Honor recipients from Vietnam have come out and said we were high?
Oh yeah.
You know, I was high on cannabis.
They were doing a lot more freaking, you know.
But it also just takes one asshole. I mean, look at like Chandler with the tattoos. It just takes one asshole who's like I hate tattoos, and you know, made it a pain in the ass until, you know, Daly came in and saved us. But
I need to get this out there because if anybody in the military is watching, like when it comes to cannabis, I'm strictly for my wife. Like she's the one that does it, not me. With the chemo, she's on like 15 meds. She takes 2 of them out of 15 because she smokes cannabis. So I firsthand see the benefits, and you know, anxiety, everything that she deals with, anxiety, stuff like that, are things that veterans are dealing with every day. So I push for that on a regular basis.
There are times that freaking like I'm in a rough shape, man. I'll fucking fuck yeah, dude. I'll eat I'll eat a gummy. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Dude, you know. You know.
Yeah, I'm in corporate America, and it's a bit of a gray area there too. So
yeah, I got to stay clean because I'm in corporate America and I need my security clearance. So
not
that I've ever been tested, but
there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying,
there isn't.
look at the benefits. I mean, look at it helps so many people out there. Why are we not using this to treat PTSDs for vets?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you guys followed, and Dustin, you going into the medical field, the John Hopkins and a handful of other universities across America and Canada doing studies with psilocybin for PTSD treatments.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
they're doing everything. Like they're using shrooms for depression. They tried Molly or MDMA for PTSD too, because it gets you to open up.
Yeah, and they're the John Hopkins. I was reading or listening to a podcast about it. There's guys that one dose, I think 1/10 of a milligram, and there's a bunch of other stuff in there to kind of help keep you level. But 12 months later, they're still not having any major or overt symptoms that they were experiencing prior to that just one dose. So,
good.
I think eventually it's going to get legalized. I think eventually, it will. I don't think any of the harder stuff like heroin or meth will be. Well, maybe heroin. I don't know. I mean,
Oregon.
But
that's a topic for another day. I think all drugs should be legalized, but
I agree.
That's just me. Just let them. People are going to do it no matter what. You know what? So I use John Hopkins a lot when I debate people, because people try to use credible sources and they say that John Hopkins is a credible source, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it now is with like the anti-mask mask. I don't wear a mask. I believe that the coronavirus is real, but I don't believe it's a pandemic. I work in a nursing home, and when I'm there, I do for them. But, I think that if you're going to get it, you're going to get it no matter what you do. And I think it's stupid. But people will say like John Hopkins did a study on this, and it's usually the lefters, Democrats, stuff like that. But they're like, well, they did a study on this and how masks work, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so you think John Hopkins is a credible source, right? So then I'll ask him like, well, what do you think about transgenderism? And I talk a lot of controversy, but they said, well, no, I think it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I was like, but John Hopkins said that it's a mental disorder. And they're like, what? And I'll pull up the article. Same. It's like, so if John Hopkins is a reputable source and you're going to say that they did this study and this is reputable, then what you're saying is, and I use that all the time for him. So John Hopkins is great for that.
Posted on their own petard, I guess.
Yep.
And just like that, Gordon, we got political.
Right.
Sorry. We'll go back.
Yeah. No, I avoid.
Tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. I personally try to avoid being political on here, but
yes,
I catch enough. I catch enough flack about it on other stuff as is. I don't need to add to it.
At this point in time, I'm so sick of politics. It's not even funny. I can't even look at Facebook anymore. It's just like everybody's just arguing about things. It's like I'm done.
I miss the days, even just 5 years ago, when you could just ignore it if you wanted to, and you can't.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's getting more pervasive.
Mm-hmm.
Getting more heated. And people are getting more and more angry. And it's like, everybody needs to calm down and eat some fruit or something.
Yeah. I have relatives and friends, and they typically skew older. And I know them to generally be, reasonable people. And all I see them post is, all caps, always yelling. And I'm like, man, just calm the fuck down.
And it's so funny because that's like 99% of the veteran community out there. It's just like,
it's true. It's true. I've got a few friends who I think have removed me on Facebook because I've been like, man, just chill the fuck out. Like, it's not the end of the world.
I only talk about the real issues when I'm on Facebook outside of the podcast, like why the Bears still suck and how Tom Brady's not the GOAT. But,
God, I really want the Bucks to win because you will have a fucking aneurysm if Tom Brady knocks the Packers out of the playoffs. And I want to get it on film. Like, that'll be the epic fatty rant.
We're done. We're way fucking talking.
Yeah, we're in the weeds. So, Dustin, let me ask you one last question.
The Packers.
Is there, if there's anyone listening that's looking to go into the military or maybe they're on their exit strategy now, what kind of advice would you offer them?
Going into the military, join the Air Force or the Navy. Be smart. Use something, especially now because we may not be in peacetime, but we're pretty peacetime. Go get a career in something that you can actually use outside of the military. The infantry is a phenomenal career and you can talk a lot of shit to everybody, but real life applications are far and few between outside of your normal leadership, stuff like that. Otherwise, and just do it despite what anybody says too. I mean, do it for the right reasons. Don't just do it for school Realize you're gonna get made fun of a lot. For people transitioning, I was listening to a podcast, and I just started listening to a podcast too recently, but they were saying that you can't let the military define you as a person. And they talk about how it's hard because, like I said, it's been a third of my life is in the military, and it's been a huge part of my life. But you have to start thinking now, even before you're done, what are you going to do afterwards? You know, is the military all I'm ever going to be? Are you going to be one of those guys that, and I'm not bashing him, but that walks around in his Iraq hat? You know, I'm an Iraq veteran and I'm a badass, hangs out at the VFW every day just because that's all he knows? Or are you going to be someone that can actually contribute to society because you took the time to develop as a person as well? And I fall into both.
You can't get hung up on it.
No, you can't.
My daughters just had their first swim lesson yesterday. There was a guy there who walked in with, like you said, the Iraq hat, had a multi-cam backpack. He took his shirt off because, you know, with the babies you have to get in with them, and he's got like a fucking OIF tattoo. He's got his cab tattooed to his chest, and it was my wife had to hold me back from being like, oh, how's your fucking crybaby appeasement badge, you son of a bitch.
Right. I mean, I got an American flag here with a red arrow on it from my first deployment. I was young when I got it, but you know, now I rock things like I'm a part unicorn. I'm gonna get a tattoo of a unicorn on my thigh, I think. It's gonna be awesome.
You're absolutely right there. That you can't get hung up on that for your entire life.
One of the things too, I've had to freaking tell people too is like, you know, just because you're a vet or because you serve doesn't make you a good person.
No,
you know?
God no.
Yeah, just because you're a vet, but there's this kind of weird. Sometimes there's this like weird hero worship, you know. And you get it a lot, you know. It's like because I won't name names, but you know, there's guys out there. It's just like you are not a good human being. You know, you suck. You really do. You suck. You know, but people were like, "Oh, well, he's a vet." Okay, he's a shitty vet.
They do it, but they do it. They do it with the military. They do it with cops. Like I don't know. Do you guys know who Andy Stumpf is? He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's one of the only ones I'll actually listen to because most of them are, you know, fucking idiots who enjoy their podcasts and their book deals. But he was on Joe Rogan, and he was talking. I think they were talking about one of the recent SEALs that was, you know, convicted of a war crime. He's like, look, like people put us on a pedestal, but it's like any other community. Like you got good people and you got some really fucking shitty people too. And like you can't give them a pass just because they're like, oh yeah, you know, they were a veteran. Like they, you know, they're automatically a great person. Like, no, a lot of them aren't.
Wow.
And for people in my boat, never served, and maybe you know some people that did, I've been incredibly fortunate, you know, meeting, you know, Steve, we've known each other for way too fucking long. Josh, getting to meet you through the show and talking to you, Dustin, and other guys are awesome. But on the flip side of that, there are some assholes, and you just need to keep that in mind. And especially if you're an employer, that's one of the big things that, you know, I looked out for when I was self-employed and now interviewing for my corporate company. Okay, they served, but what's that look like? And that's why, you know, a lot of companies put those references on. Call them. Ask them if they have a command officer or an NCO on there. Call them, get a third person opinion. I'd say.
Oh yeah, I think our generation is really good. At least when I say our generation, like our war, the war on terror. I think our generation is very good at calling people out for that too. Like, you know, back in the day, they wouldn't say. I mean, you wouldn't even think about saying a word to a Vietnam vet or a World War II vet. Like, you know, you're a shitty fucking person. If you got that hat on, I'm looking at you like, oh my God, dude, you're amazing. I'm sure people in their generation did too, but at least with ours, we have a more public access available to us that we can really, you know, stolen valor, all that kind of stuff. Like we hold each other accountable all the time now. And if you're a veteran with a company and you want to claim you're a veteran owned company, you better not be afraid to have your dirty laundry hung out because people are going to come at you, you know? So
I got a good story I'll tell you once I stop recording here, but I just want to say thanks again, Dustin, for taking the time out of the day to be on the show. Appreciate it. Josh,
thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for scheduling out with this for us. And that's all, folks. We'll catch you next time.